Hi everyone, I'm Robin Wilhoit and welcome to Behind the Headline as we take a look back at another story that captured the attention of East Tennessee. December 4th, 1989. Robbers targeted a bank on Merchant Road in North Knoxville. They made their escape and fled to a home just a few miles away on Inskip Drive. Then gunshots started flying. What played out in that normally quiet neighborhood had people talking long after. A standoff and shootout caught on tape by WBIR reporters and photojournalists.
Straight from the heart moment, December 1989, the Inskip Shootout.
This is Action 10 News.
A dramatic shootout in North Knoxville sends a wounded policeman to the hospital and 3 bank robbery suspects to jail. This dangerous ordeal ended just a few hours ago when the last suspect surrendered to police.
Throw your guns out the window and nobody will shoot.
Mainly the thing is we want an end to a situation. I talked to him for a while and then he got a little angry at me.
At one point, Officer Richard Giamarino, who was in the back of the house on the west end as perimeter control, was shot 4 times with the .45 caliber automatic.
Storming the house would have been the last resort. It would have been a very difficult entry, of course, high risk. There are ways that we are trained to do that, and we would do it if we had to. Fortunately, we didn't have to.
And at that point, I was lucky enough to, and had a good sound position of the gun for it wouldn't be any movement, and I took aim, and luckily enough, I hit the gun.
And from that point on, he carried me off. I wanted to walk on my own, but he wouldn't let me. But he carried me off, and I was taken to the hospital. I was lucky. I think somebody was watching over me.
Joining me now, the former WBIR reporters and photojournalists who were on the scene of that standout, just feet away from where the shots were fired. Gene Patterson, Charles Denny, and Daryl DeBusk. Thank you, all 3 of you, for being here.
It's good to see old friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it really is.
Does it bring back memories?
Oh, I never forgot.
What, seeing this guy and this guy? Bad memory. No, it does.
Only the best memories.
Fond memories.
But let's talk about this story that really played out over the course of hours, beginning with that bank robbery. So how did you guys first hear about the robbery, first off?
Well, yeah, it normally starts with the scanner noise, right? And Daryl, you're the expert there.
Yes, I had been out shooting that morning, shooting something that was going to air at 6 o'clock that night. I got back to the newsroom and I heard dispatch call out the bank robbery, and just standard, normal bank robbery type, call. But a couple of minutes later, an officer was calling the dispatch and was very frantic. You could tell something was going on, and he was relaying that an individual had followed the suspects to a house, and then they were responding to the house. And it was at that moment I knew we needed to hit the road, and I grabbed Gene and we took off.
So off we went.
And that's what happens in those moments. Way back when we were listening to Scanner, you just jumped to it. But when you got that notice of something going on, I think I can speak for all of us, that adrenaline kicks in because you know something could be going on.
And if I could point out, things are a little different today in terms of how police deal with media. We were literally within, you said feet away, we were feet away from the house where these folks, the suspects, were held up. So that puts us sort of in the line of fire, and that would not happen today.
Absolutely not. And we're going to see just how close you guys were in the line of fire. Now, Charles, where were you as this was starting out?
Well, first of all, it sounds like a much better story to say it was my first day on the job at Channel 10. It was actually my 3rd day.
I will go ahead and say it's the first day.
It's probably already up to 2nd day on the job. For sure, it was my first ever live shot I did for Channel 10.
And how did that go?
I'm sure we have to go back and look at the air checks. I'm sure I did great. No, unfortunately because Gene and Daryl were so close, I was with Jerry Owens, who still works here at the station today. And Jerry and I were kind of tagging along as kind of backup. And you guys were so close that Jerry and I they said they were feet away. We were yards away, maybe 75 yards from the house. Yeah. And when the bullets started flying, I'm skipping ahead here, but Jerry and I were behind an old Ford Pinto, I think, in this ball field parking lot, the Inskip ball field. Like I say, I'm brand new to Knoxville. I've been here for days. I had no concept of where I was. I had never heard of Merchants Road. I knew we were close to the station.
Right.
Yeah,
That's about all
very
I knew.
close,
But
actually.
yeah, so Jerry and I were kind of there. But then because of the circumstances, I was the one, unfortunately for the viewers of East Tennessee and Channel 10, instead of the veteran reporter doing the live shot, it was me. But I had Carl Williams, who was kind of babysitting me through some of this. And he's like, well, Chuck, I think those are bullets flying. I'm like, yeah, I think you're right, Carl.
So we're going to advance to the actual shootout,
Yes.
but we are going to go back to the bank robbery, and this story captured national headlines.
Oh, yeah.
In 1990, of course, just a few months after it happened, the popular true crime rescue show Rescue 911 focused an episode on this bank robbery and shootout. They actually talked with a couple who tipped off police about what they witnessed right after the bank robbery. Here's a portion of that episode.
I told my wife, don't even look at him, don't pay any attention to him, and we just drove right by him nonchalantly. Eased my car up just enough so I could see this individual stuffing money into a bag. He was stuffing money into a sack as fast as he could. And all of a sudden, he stood straight up and looked in my direction. I would assume he didn't see me. I gave him maybe 20 seconds, 30 seconds. I started inching back up to watch, see what's going on. Well, at that time, a white Volvo pulled right back out onto the street and started heading back in the direction they had just come.
The cars, nobody in the car there.
And I looked back into the parking lot where the Black Fort Temple was. It was empty, so I knew that they had to be in that white Volvo. They knew exactly what they were doing. Laid out perfect. Fast, really fast.
That's where they're going.
Oh, God, they know we're following him. Let's get out of here.
So I immediately just stopped in my tracks, turned into a driveway, backed up, and just nonchalantly headed right back where I came from. Like nothing was happening, Sunday Drive. But I knew in my mind, if I didn't get back to the bank as quick as I could, that these individuals could get away.
Knoxville police officer Terry Clowers was investigating the robbery when Jerry pulled up.
He was just driving just real wild and went to yelling at me. I followed the bank robbers. Come and follow me. I'll show you where they're at. And I had to jump back in the car and chase him. He was just real convincing. So I just told him over the radio a subject was taking me to where the suspects were at.
Copy, Ray. Follow him. Don't know, Ray. He told me to follow him. Have all units be on lookout for a white Volvo in this area. Female driving, 2 white males in it.
I got very nervous because they had moved the white Volvo out of the front of the house.
Right here, Ray.
Is this it? Go the wreck right center and wait.
You know, I got to thinking, this might be the wrong house. You know, he might have just followed somebody that was making a withdrawal.
Hey, I see somebody looking out the window.
But she was real frantic. And I said, well, you know, something's wrong here. People, you know, if they see a couple cruisers in front, they might step out on the porch and say, what's going on, officer? You know, if nothing was going on.
Where's he at, Terry?
Officer Jim Marino, which we call Guido, arrived.
Okay, move on up, go.
A young officer, and I took him kind of under my wing.
Got it. Okay.
You're completely surrounded. You cannot escape. Come to the front door. Walk outside now.
I informed them that we were the police. They were completely surrounded. There was no means of escape. Told them to come out with their hands raised. No one would get hurt.
Open the front door. Walk outside. You're completely surrounded.
Officer Larry Gillen continued to talk to the suspects as an elderly woman living in an apartment behind the house was evacuated.
Front door. Walk outside with your hands raised.
Less than half an hour after they surrounded the house, a female suspect surrendered to police.
Come to the front door. Come outside onto the porch now.
About 15 minutes later, the first man of the group came out. 2 out of 3 is not bad. Tried the same thing again, but no response with the third guy. He was the hard case.
An FBI team arrived and took up positions around the house, including Assistant Special Agent in Charge, Tom Locke.
One of the primary things we wanted to do was to find out as much intelligence information from the 2 who had surrendered about the third one who was still inside. Basically, there were 2 things. One, he was armed. He had several weapons. And secondly, both the suspects thought that this individual was of a mind that he was not going to come out.
So because of that couple, police and media end up at this house on Inskip.
Remember, these are the days before cell phones.
That's right.
That's right.
So this guy just follows them. Jerry Meredith was his name. He follows them from the bank. He sees it happening. He follows them to the house, sees what house it is, sees the address, goes back, drives back to the bank, and tells the police officer, "Here, I'll go show you where they are." And they might have gotten away with it if not for this guy.
Yeah, because they made a car change right after the bank robbery.
that's right.
Car changes.
Yeah.
And so they end up there. You all are on the scene. Take us from the point you get on the scene and how this starts to unfold.
And just, again, to sort of set the scene. So here's a house, a little shotgun house, as I recall, with a little front porch, you know, on the front of the house, and there's a yard. And so we're not on the property, but we are literally just off the sidewalk in the road, as I recall, right? So there are, you know, police cars, and I think there was a fire truck there. There were numbers of official vehicles there, but we were literally, I don't know, 50 feet from the front door. And so as you look at the house, so Chuck and his crew, and Jerry Owens were over here on this side. We were on this side with a direct line into the house, practically, right? So that's where we show up. That's where Daryl sets up his camera, and I conveniently am standing behind him.
Conveniently.
When things start to happen.
So, but before things start to happen, what happens? Because there are 3 people in that house.
Yes, so we're there for a while. You see the FBI respond. You see the KPD SWAT team respond. Of course, the FBI is trying to talk them to come out of the house. The first person to come out is the female. She comes out, she walks around, they grab her real quick, they do a real quick pat down of her, and then they take her off. And it was just a few minutes later that the first male subject come out. And they also take him, pat him down, and they pull him up to the car where we're standing, the police car right next to us. They put him down on the hood, they're talking to him, and we're listening to the conversation. He says he doesn't
You're
know
that
the
close that you can actually hear the conversation.
We're this close. We're this close. We can hear that conversation. And then after that, there was kind of a lull in the action. The SWAT team and the negotiators kept trying to talk to him in the house and get him to come out.
You know, talk about her surrender. Her surrender was kind of comical.
Well, yeah, she sort of wiggled out, as I recall. She was terrified, obviously.
Absolutely.
And she should be. There were lots of guns trained at that house. Yes. What I noticed, though, after those 2 suspects came out, and there was a calm and a quiet, is how it was a beautiful, cold day with blue skies, and it was just sort of, there was this real calmness to the area, and we're all sort of standing around talking to each other. And that's when I noticed, well, you hear, first of all, a round come from the house, and I noticed, and I'm sure Daryl saw it too, and maybe you, Chuck, the drape blew outward.
Yeah. Okay, so he fired first.
Oh, yeah. As far as I recall, his round.
I don't know if they fired the tear gas first.
They did toss some tear gas in there. That's correct.
Okay. Okay.
But the first round from a pistol or a rifle or whatever it was came from him outward, as I remember it, and that's when I literally thought to myself, wait a minute. Holy smokes, we're in the middle of a shootout, because all hell broke loose at that point.
Absolutely. So you're behind Daryl at this point. You have his back, literally.
Gene gets down behind him and says, "Don't worry, Daryl, I'm behind you all the way."
You know, what was interesting about that, so there were several crews initially right there, and they backed us up.
Right.
And Daryl and I sort of lingered, and next thing you know, because we were surrounded by media and cars, they literally backed up everything. And we're now out there on an island.
So at no point, though, did you have law enforcement say, "Get out of here"?
Not at that moment.
No, not at that moment.
We looked around and there was no officers around us. We were just by ourselves out in the street.
Daryl and I looked, he said, what should we do? I said, I think we just hang out here.
Yeah.
And that's what I said the famous line. Don't worry, I'm behind you all the way.
Now, Charles,
I was behind Jerry all the way.
Yeah.
Well, there you
but
go.
once again, while you were on the scene, you weren't as close to
I would
them
say
at that
we were
point.
about the layout of it, like Gene described. There's a ball field, a Little League ball field there, and it was the parking lot of that ball field, and the house was over here. And I would say we were 75 yards left of the front door, but looking right at it, yeah. I mean, I could see very clearly the front porch and everything.
This is a question for all three of you.
Yeah.
Were you scared?
Absolutely.
You know what? It's funny. Yes, obviously, when you realize you're in the middle of a gunfight, there is clearly fear there. But it's sort of like you're an observer, and so it's almost like it's an out-of-body experience. I remember one time I was in a Huey, and they had me strapped in with the door open, and they did a flyby this way, and I'm leaning forward with a camera shooting the ground. Now, the only thing keeping me from hitting the ground is this strap. But you don't, I mean, it's like you're just an observer. You're watching video.
And Daryl, you were the photojournalist covering it. I mean, that's a challenging position to be. You are tasked with shooting the video, looking through the lens of a camera, whereas as a reporter, we can look around, but you're trained in and focused in on whatever you're shooting. That doesn't necessarily, it does, it leaves you vulnerable.
Yes, and you know, I remember that I was just focused on what was going on. And it's a little small black and white viewfinder. And so you're focused on exactly what you're seeing, and you're not seeing everything that's going on around you. You know, my job and my goal was to get the best video I could of the suspects, of the shooters, just whatever I could. And that included Officer Gio Marino after he was shot. You know, I had the video of them actually almost carrying him out and taking him to the ambulance. I was the only one that had that. And I was just focused on all of that, not really my safety.
So we're going to take a quick break, if you will, to look at the story, Gene, that you did that night after all this played out. Now, just something to share with you. You will not hear the gunshots. You will not hear a lot of the shouting that took place because of just some technical issues, because this is clearly a story that's 30-plus years old and it did not translate, but you will certainly get a sense of what played out that day. Take a look.
Logistically, the house itself posed several problems for police. It was divided into two apartments. Nettie Stevens lived in the back. She was quickly evacuated. The suspect, known only at the time as Donnie, had barricaded himself in the front area, with windows affording him a good view of three sides. And he was heavily armed, 2 handguns and a 12-gauge shotgun. FBI agent Tom Locke tried to talk him outside. That didn't work.
Mainly the thing is we want an end to a situation. I talked to him for a while and then he got a little angry at me.
Very angry, the suspect began firing at police, shattering a cruiser's back window and riddling an FBI car. Then Knoxville's Special Weapons Assault Team, the SWAT team, moved in. But throughout the ordeal, FBI hostage negotiator John Denton continued to plead with the barricaded man. The only response, more weapons fire. SWAT team leader Jim Kennedy then began a plan for the actual assault of the house. It would be very tricky and dangerous. Kennedy's plan was to rush it from 2 sides, the doorway and a window.
Storming the house would have been the last resort. It would have been a very difficult entry, of course, high risk. There are ways that we are trained to do that, and we would do it if we had to. Fortunately, we didn't have to.
Just moments before the assault would have been initiated, the suspect came out. And moments after that, the siege was over. Gene Patterson, Action 10 News.
You lived that drama. And I think what is remarkable to those of us who weren't here, but who have seen the picture, seen the video, that last image of the suspect coming out on his back.
Cover of magazine.
Yes.
Jack Kirkland.
Yeah,
yes.
Jack Kirkland.
It ended up where?
Was it
Life
magazine?
Magazine? Yeah, cover of Life magazine.
Yes.
That tells you something, doesn't it, right there?
dramatic.
You're saying something during the story that they kept calling him Donnie,
Right.
though. His name wasn't Donnie. His name was Jesse Adams.
Jesse Castro Adams, or sometimes it's Jesse Casto Adams. No one ever could quite figure out his middle name. But the two imbeciles who robbed the bank with him thought his name was Donnie. They told the police officers, they thought, well, so anyway, if you're going to rob a bank, and it's not a very smart crime to commit, there are security cameras, there are armed guards, the tellers have buttons they can push. Robbing a bank is not a very good idea. But if you're going to rob a bank, at least know the people you're robbing it with. I mean, they didn't even know who this guy was. So they told the FBI, and Tom Locke, who was the FBI negotiator there, is on a bullhorn saying, Donnie? They kept calling him Donnie. They thought his name was Donnie. Donnie, come on out. Donnie, you're surrounded. So that's what I'm telling the viewers at home, is they're talking to this guy. They call him Donnie, and
it's not Donnie.
It wasn't
It's
Donnie,
Jesse.
no.
Yeah.
Well, and speaking of Locke and the other FBI folks who were there, and all the first responders, but when we were standing there and I described this blue sky and it was cool, people were in jackets, coats, and with the lull, and then when the tear gas went in and they tried to get him to come out, nothing happened, and all of a sudden that round comes through that drape toward everybody and is like, whoa. One of the officers, one of the FBI agents actually caught a bullet through a coat. Didn't hit him, but that's how close everybody was to that scene. And so that's when it got real fast.
And an officer was shot.
That's right.
Yes. Officer Gio Marino was shot. He was a new officer.
Yeah.
Fortunately, he had his bullet-resistant vest on, but they were carrying him out. I was shooting the video. There are two officers on either side of him, sort of lifting him up and removing him from the scene. And I know there was a lot of concern there. And once that happened, it changed the whole atmosphere of everything going on that day.
Yeah.
My gunshot story is, I just remember very early on there was one shot, and I grew up around hunters, and my dad was a hunter, and I've been around guns some, but this one shot made a different sound. It had a whistling sound to it.
And that's what we were hearing above our heads.
You were hearing it. And 6 or 8 months later, Adams is on trial, and I'm covering the trial, and Gary Weiss, who was at WATE, Channel 6, Gary Weiss, I was telling him that story. I said, yeah, one shot seemed to make a different sound. He said, oh, I saw a flash of light over you and Jerry about 10 feet above your heads. I said, okay. I mean, you talked about were we afraid that day? Of course we were afraid, but mostly it was just adrenaline.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're running on that.
And then the fear that comes in. And Daryl, after you left WBIR, you went to work for the Knoxville Police Department, and you probably have an even greater understanding of when an officer is shot.
Absolutely.
It does take it to a whole other level.
It does. Officers are out there. They're trying to do, get these individuals in custody. But when you start shooting and you actually had an officer, that takes it to a whole new level. And it was interesting after I joined KPD that I actually got to work with these same officers that I had videoed a few years prior. And it
kind of bonds you in some
sense,
doesn't it?
And I'd had conversations with several of them about that incident. And we actually, a couple of times, we went back and looked at the video and relived those moments, on both sides, both the police side and the media side.
Well, let's talk about that, because we are often tasked with forming relationships, forming a working relationship with law enforcement in order to tell our stories. It's very important to have that respect, that connection, if you will, right, to tell the stories.
Well, and you're right. I worked nights at WBIR for a number of years, and so you develop a relationship with those beat cops because you're out on those calls, you're listening to scanner, oh, here's something going on, so you go and you see the same officers, they know you by first name, you know them by first name, and they begin to trust you in that regard. And with trust, you get access.
Yes.
And unfortunately in today's era, and you don't get that access. Daryl was one of the first PIOs for the KPD. Now, the rules changed once the public information officer showed up. We couldn't we could talk to the cops, the beat cops, but they couldn't really talk to us. They had to go through the PIO. And so that changed the dynamic, in my opinion, about how that relationship forms.
Do you think that's for the better or the worse, being on both sides of
I'm going to say worse.
For journalists. From a journalist's point, yes, absolutely.
No question.
I mean, it's a unique perspective.
To this day, I still have mixed emotions about it. I think having those relationships with the officer is very important. I think you need that. You need that trust. You need someone that you can talk to. But I also see the benefit of having a PIO, because you do need someone, a point of contact, because you know, every officer on a scene such as this shootout, they're seeing something from a different perspective.
I agree.
And you have to put the whole thing together. And you know, what one officer may have said, well, there was 5 shots fired. Well, the other one, he may have thought there was 10. So you've got to weed through all that to put out the accurate information. And that's where the PIO comes into play.
Charles, you were with the Knox County Sheriff's Department.
Right, I did this similar job that Daryl did. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you want to let journalists do their job, and being a former journalist in that job, you want to respect that. So yeah, but you got to keep people safe. You got to, you know, we used to all the time when I was with the Sheriff's Department, okay, how much do you guys want to put out about this? Because sometimes they may have a suspect they're looking for, and okay, do you want to say, okay, this is the guy we're looking for, or do you want to keep that you know, under wraps for now? So,
well, and I mean, let's be honest here. Public information officers control the message if you have no access. And so, you know, in this case, the KPD or the Knox County Sheriff's Department, it is what the message they want to deliver to the public that goes to us. I sort of like not having that filter. Now, the same point though, there are times when there's so much going on, you need help and a point of contact, because the last thing you want to do is put out erroneous or false facts.
And early on, let's face it, there are going to be some the information that we get, we're going to have to change along the way, much like Donnie was actually Jesse.
Yes.
So, I mean, early on, I think as a reporter, you always know you're getting stuff immediate or shortly thereafter, and you are prepared that, okay, you're going to have to refine that information or give more information or take back some information because things are playing out so quickly.
Yeah, where all this works is if these guys as PIOs are fast and efficient with their information to us. I've dealt with PIOs, we probably all have, who were not so quick to get to us.
Yes.
You know, I work at a facility today that's sort of reticent about putting out information. So we are very slow and methodical and careful about how we put that information out.
And as a reporter, we want it as quickly as possible because we are the eyes and the ears of the public.
Therefore, news happening now.
Exactly.
And social media has changed.
100%.
That has really made a big difference. And it's difficult because everyone wants the information now, and you may not have the answer now. I know you don't. It takes investigation and time to do that, to pull the information and to get the accurate information. Because if you put something out false, it's always out there now on social media. It's going to be replayed, and it's hard to overcome false information.
You're right. Okay, let's go back to the shootout. This is playing out, and we have a boss. And at that point in time, what was your boss translating to you? Did they want you in the line of fire? No, clearly they don't want you in the line of fire unless they're upset with you. But I mean, their primary job is to keep you safe.
You know, I don't know that, I never had that conversation. Jim Swinehart was our news director at the time. I don't know that I had that conversation with about physically where we were in relation to the danger. All I know is that our competitive juices were flowing, and we knew. I mean, after Jim Marino got hit, we knew we had better video than anybody on the planet because we were the only ones who were right there. So, the last thing I was going to try to instruct him on or me do was back up.
Well, and even if you did get that order, you know, would you necessarily?
And I was celebrating when what Gene was saying. You know, I had that video.
Yeah.
We were the only ones there that got that video. And you know, inside I was like, "This is awesome.
Yep.
We just beat our competitors." So that was
We
driving
also,
hard.
I want to point out to some of our buds too today, Jim Martin, Doug Edwin, and Ken Tucker were also videographers, and they were roaming around. I think Martin was in the woods behind the house, crawling around places that he probably shouldn't have been. But I mean, they also contributed to it, and Jerry Owens was with me. Yeah.
What was the atmosphere in the neighborhood? So,
Wait, let's talk about what Swinehart's instruction to you was when Adams came out.
Right. Well, he crawls out on the porch.
Right.
With this, doing this, peace sign, gun to his chest. Moyers, I think, is right there. Yeah, I mean, obviously, this was an amazing. I'm just sitting there thinking, is this really happening? I see him I see his body just scrunch out like this. I've got a pretty good view of him from the side. And so Jerry had, while the bullets were flying, Jerry and I didn't say we were behind a Ford Pinto. we were in the parking lot. We were behind this car. Jerry put the camera up on the tripod, and we're crouched down like in the catcher's crouch, you know, looking up at the viewfinder most of the time. And I go live just looking up at the viewfinder. That's how they did it. So Jerry is zoomed in, like I say, from about 75 yards away. And then Jim Swinehart gets on the two-way radio, no cell phones then, and says, zoom back out, pull back out, you know, because it didn't occur to us that the guy might commit suicide live on TV.
Right.
And because we were live, we were letting it, everybody's watching it as it's happened. So Jerry zooms back out, and then it came to an end. You're right.
So can I follow
Absolutely.
from that point?
Absolutely.
So here Daryl and I are, me right behind Daryl. But no, we were just off the sidewalk on the property, directly on that corner on the right side. So Moyers is over here with a rifle, just at the corner of the building next to the porch. This guy comes out on his back. He's got the gun here, right? And so we are watching this all happen, and we see Moyers draw down on the guy, and then he looks up and goes,
out of the way.
He was talking to us.
Yes.
We were absolutely in the line of fire. If he missed, he would have shot Daryl.
Well, I'm glad that you saw him.
Move
you out of the way.
It was one of those things where you go,
me?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he did it twice.
And he did it.
Oh yeah, we did.
Thankfully, you moved out of the way.
If you watch the video, when he comes out, the camera is direct line of sight with Officer Moyers. And then a couple shots later, we're at a little slight angle.
We know the order had been taken, and you had followed through.
Again, you asked us about that sense of fear. Yes. There was no fear there. We were, we're about to witness something here. We weren't aware if he was going to shoot the guy or shoot the gun.
Yeah. And he shot the gun.
He shot the gun.
Did he shoot the gun out of his hand?
Yes. As far yes.
Shot a hole through it. And I could see, even from 75 yards away, I could see Jesse Adams kind of look at it for a second. And he
something.
Tossed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a heck of a shot.
Another image I remember, y'all correct me if I'm wrong about this, there was another officer who had a jacket, Chevrolet, the heartbeat of America, today's Chevrolet, had that jacket. So he came around from the other side.
Yes. I remember that.
I just remember that image of that jacket, of that Chevrolet jacket.
Yes.
Isn't it interesting the things our
what
brain kind of holds on to?
Of America. That's exactly what it said.
Well, let's go ahead and we're going to progress it. The day after the shooting, Charles, you went back to that neighborhood talking with people who lived there as that shooting played out. Take a look.
The people along West Inskip tell us their street is usually quiet, except for a few cars zooming by too fast. But yesterday there was a shootout at this house, and today there are reminders: bullet holes, broken glass, plywood for windows. And Officer Richard Giamarino was keeping watch around this corner when he was struck by 2 bullets in the arm and chest. The 4-hour ordeal ended when 36-year-old Donnie Goss surrendered to police after threatening to kill himself. Goss, a bank robbery suspect, fired at police repeatedly throughout the day. Peggy Thomas was 2 doors down.
I was looking out the front door when they were firing some of the times. I get scared.
Peggy Thomas stayed inside her house during the shootout, occasionally peeking out a window and watching the whole thing unfold on television. Other residents were even closer and had to be evacuated.
I was down here where the apartment's at in the police car, and I'd hear glass and everything. I just figured the house getting shot up pretty bad. I mean, my house, because they had the FBI had come in here. They asked me could they use the house.
The FBI did use Glover's house. It was not damaged. Tony doesn't think the shootout will give his neighborhood a bad reputation. It's just one of those things, he says. And the people along Inskip say yesterday's violence is excitement they can live without. Chuck Denny, Action 10 News.
It's not every day that a shootout happens in your neighborhood. Do you go by that neighborhood? I don't know when the last time it was that you went by that neighborhood. Do you think about it?
The reference point is the ball field for
Yeah.
me, and I look over and I think that's the house right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've driven by that house many a times, and I look at it every single time. Even when I've had my children with me, I've said, let me tell you a story about that, about that house.
Yeah, no, that's an old North Knoxville neighborhood. So I'm sure, though it's been, 35, 36 years ago, there are probably residents in that area who were there that day, living in a home around that area. So I can't imagine living in that house today, knowing its history.
Yeah. Of course, they went on to be tried. At least Jesse Adams went on. He stood trial.
And pretty much got life in prison for all attempted murder of a federal agent and various things.
And last I checked, I did go on to the Department of Correction website to check on the 3 individuals. And last I checked, Jesse Adams was deceased. Frank McCarran was no longer in the system, which you would assume he is out, and not sure as to whether he is alive at this point. And Mary Ann Ike, is that correct?
I think it's
Ike. She is no longer in the system as well. So here we are, these many years later.
I think, you know, I would later learn, and I think maybe learn at the trial, just how aggressive and forceful they were in this robbery. I mean, I'm sure these bank tellers were terrified.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty heinous crime. We've made some jokes about some things here, but this was a pretty scary crime. And then this was a guy who thought it was a good idea to, I guess he just thought he had nothing to lose. He said, well, I'm just going to have death by suicide by cop here.
Right.
And that's pretty much just about what happened.
Played out.
And and just how bizarre it all was, him crawling out on the porch. I just will never forget that.
Let's talk about just the impact of this story on you as journalists. I mean, you all have covered big stories in East Tennessee, but this definitely is one. You were a part of this story.
Well,
in many
certainly we documented it well. It said to me, and like I say, 30 plus years of covering crime stories, the only shootout I was ever involved in as an observer, right?
Me too.
And honestly, you asked about, again, going back to that question of fear, I'm surprised how little fear I felt in the moment. I was much more fearful of not capturing the scene properly and reporting it. And so Daryl's getting the pictures, I'm looking at everything else that's going on, and I think it was, you know, it said to me that, you know, we're a pretty good news team. We're pretty good at what we do.
And we did do a really good job that day. I was really proud.
Yeah.
And I was just incredibly, y'all making me tear up here. I was incredibly proud that, you know, we had Bill Williams and Edie Ellis, and I had just joined this news team, and I was just really proud to be a part of this, and that they trusted me that day. They kind of had no choice to trust me because I was there by the live truck, but they did, you know, and I had Jerry, and Carl Williams, I mean, was anchoring throughout the day, and he was kind of holding my hand a little bit.
Wait, I'm sorry. No.
So one thing I remember, I mean, there's stories that I covered while working at Channel 10, and there's incidents that I covered while working at KPD, and there's some that just stick out that you never will forget, and this is one of those for me. And I guess sort of aside to that, you know, talking about the coverage and how well we did, you know, we won a lot of awards, both photography and spot news coverage and things like that. And that's always nice to look back on. That, you know, I think we did do a good job.
Yeah, I thought we did. You know, the other point too is that, you know, you hear a lot about officers and their interactions with the public, and we saw firsthand what happens when a community is in danger. And this guy was a dangerous person and should not be out on the street. And so we were witness to that, not just the KPD, but also the FBI. I mean, I still have this vivid image of Locke and the others standing over here when that first round went off, and they all started, you know, because we were that close. And the idea that these guys put their lives on the line every day to protect us is a pretty big deal. And when you see that in action, live and in person, it makes you even more impressed with what they do.
They run toward the danger.
That's correct.
They run toward, and in this respect, journalists ran toward the danger to document it and share that with the people in the community who maybe were watching you live as it was playing out next door to them.
I always say a video camera is the next best thing to being there in person. It captures something as it's really happening. I always use the example of Shark Week, you know, Discovery Channel. By golly, I don't want to see what a shark looks like underwater.
But you love to see it, yeah.
But those guys show you what it looks like, well, and that's what that camera does. It allows you to kind of be there. And
yeah, no, you bring up the exact point. That's why we do, or what I did, what he did, what he did, what you do for all those years, is to be the eyes and ears and the witness to these things that people cannot see. That's what we do. That's what journalists do. That's their job.
And that is, I hit on this in every episode because I'm passionate about it, the need for local news. And I have to imagine this, even though the three of you are in different careers now, being a part of this institution was impactful.
Well, I think it's what TV news does best is when, and that was back then and today too, is that just kind of drop everything and just everybody covers a big event, you know, that's, you know, like we did that day. Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for reliving what was certainly a memorable day.
Yes. Just thinking about it got me all excited again.
Yeah.
So
it has a way. It has a way, doesn't it? Thank you all. And thank you for joining us for our first season of Behind the Headline. We'll be back next season with more stories that made an impact on East Tennessee.